If you're a construction business owner, what if the key to growing your profit wasn't hiring more people? What if you could take on more work, grow your revenue, and actually increase your bottom line without adding a single person to your team? In other words, what if you could get more profit out of every dollar of overhead? Today, we're unpacking a couple of proven strategies, one of which is used by venture capital firms that could transform the way you think about labor and growth in your construction business. Welcome to the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and this podcast is all about helping you, the construction business owner, eliminate chaos and maximize profit in your business. We're all about increasing freedom, impact, and wealth. And if you're a custom home builder, remodeler, or a commercial GC who's serious about growth and you want to maximize your profit, then you're in the right place. So tell me if any of these sound familiar. You're a construction business owner. You feel maxed out, maybe. You keep hiring people to get some relief, but it's not helping. The only thing that's happening is your payroll keeps increasing, your overhead keeps climbing, but your profit is still flat. You're not making any more money. Here's what I hear from a lot of people. Let me know if any of these sound familiar. You're working too many hours, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, 30, 40, 50% plus of your week is spent on low value tasks, putting out fires and in reactive mode. Your OIC, your owner interruption count, this is the number of texts, emails, phone calls, interruptions you get every day is too high. If you total them up, it's 50, 60, 100 plus interruptions a day. Maybe details are falling through the cracks. You've hired people. You've hired estimators, somebody in pre-construction, project manager, superintendent, etc. You've hired some management people, but it hasn't really moved the needle. Maybe you're still putting out too many fires. As the owner, you're carrying all the risk and you're working too many hours, but you still can't focus on growth. And your team members seem to be unclear about roles. And maybe you end up telling them every move to make, or too many moves to make. You're double checking, following up on their work. And maybe you believe we just need to hire the right person. We just need to hire this unicorn. Or maybe you're telling yourself, once we get through this project, things will settle down. Or maybe you're thinking, these people just need to step up and take more ownership. They just need to do their freaking job and they just need to step up. Maybe you think, maybe one more hire will fix it. We just need to hire one more person. Maybe you've been saying that for the last several hires. But think about this. How long has this been going on? How long have you been stuck in this cycle? If hiring people hasn't fixed it yet, what makes you think the next hire will? What if you're just building this bigger, hungrier machine? You're building this monster. It has to be fed. It eats more cash and takes on more overhead and requires more of your time and headaches. You're just creating this monster that gets bigger and bigger that you have to feed. And here's what people tell me. Am I ever going to make the money I should be making for all this risk that I'm taking? Is this business ever going to run without me? How much longer can I carry this debt service before something breaks? What if I lose the trust of my clients, my repeat clients and referrals because of the chaos and the frustration that they're having with my team? And maybe asking, what if I'm just not cut out for this? Maybe I should just downsize and go back to a much smaller team. And here's the thing, this is not your fault. Very few people are out there teaching how to grow a construction business profitably. There's a lot of generic advice out there, like focus on your team and document your processes and very surface level stuff, but they don't give you the information that you need. We're going to get into some really practical strategies in just a minute. Now, imagine this. Picture this scenario. We're painting with a magic paintbrush. Imagine that you're actually making more profits without adding headcount. What if you could make more money and actually reduce headcount? Maybe you have a couple of people who aren't pulling their weight. Imagine increasing your profit while reducing your overhead. Imagine that your team is thriving. You've got these A players who are in their sweet spot, operating at a very high level, And then imagine that you have time to think strategically. What if you just had 4 hours a week, a 4 hour block of time a week where you could focus on whatever you wanted to focus on to grow the business? High level, strategic stuff, no interruptions. And you knew that things would run smoothly. What if you knew that your business could grow and stay lean? What if you're finally seeing those margins that you've been chasing? And ultimately, what if you had the confidence? What if you finally had the confidence to go grow your business because you knew you had the right team in place, you were hitting on all cylinders, and you could grow the business confidently, knowing that you're not just creating this bigger monster that has to be fed, but you're actually increasing margins. You have the confidence to grow the business profitably. So here's the mindset shift. And I'm going to give you a 3-step process to increase the profitability of your business without taking on more headcount. These are things you should do before you hire somebody. If you are considering posting a job for management, an overhead position, or if you're about to hire somebody, there are 3 steps you need to take before you hire somebody. This is my advice to our CEO Alliance members. Before you hire somebody, take these 3 steps to avoid taking on unnecessary overhead. Because think about it, every dollar of overhead that you take on, how much revenue do you need to generate to pay for that additional overhead? Have you ever done that math? We want to maximize the bang for the buck that you're getting out of every overhead dollar. So here's the mindset shift you need to adopt. Talent density beats talent volume. Some people just want talent volume. They think they need as many people as possible. But what you really need is talent density. Talent density beats talent volume. What that means is talent density means structuring your team so everyone is doing the work they're best at, so that everybody on your team is doing the work that drives results. Think of a hospital operating room. If you're having surgery, you don't want a bunch of jacks of all trades in there, a bunch of people who are pretty good at a lot of things. You want a surgeon, a world-class surgeon. You want an anesthesiologist, a nurse. You want the technicians. You want the experts, each to be focused on their specialty. That's how high stakes work gets done efficiently. And your construction business should work the same way. So talent density. Here's the 3-step process to create talent density in your construction business. There's a great quote, one of my favorite quotes from Peter Drucker, who said, "There is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. There is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all." So step 1 is to eliminate low value or no value work that your team is doing. Start by identifying and cutting out the tasks that don't move the needle. Okay. I was spending a couple of days with a builder who was building somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 homes a year in Virginia a few years ago. And we were working on streamlining their process and eliminating some of the friction because the owner wasn't happy with the margins and he was concerned about growing. So as we were going through this process, I kept hearing about one step in their build process that there was a lot of frustration around. And it was doing electrical walkthroughs with the client. The sales team would go out and do an electrical walkthrough, and the intent was to identify locations for light fixtures and switches and outlets. And they said it always turned into like a 3 or 4 hour session and like opening up a can of worms. People were like, "Oh, these electrical walkthroughs suck. I hate electrical walkthroughs." What if we eliminated electrical walkthroughs and found a different way to lay out plugs and switches and light fixtures? And the team sort of paused and looked at each other and said, "Yes, let's just eliminate them. We don't need to do these electrical walkthroughs. There's a better way to get there." So identify the tasks that don't move the needle and eliminate them. Eliminate low value or no value work. Look for things like reports that no one reads, meetings that waste time, steps that are just there because we've always done it this way. I'm not sure why we do this, but this is what we've always done. Figure out where your people are looking for information. Where are they searching for information? Are they searching through multiple shared drives and pieces of software and email and things like that? That's low value task time. Where are they asking repetitive questions? Where is their duplicate data entry? Are you storing information in two places? You're creating confusion. Where's their duplicate work? Where do you have two people doing the same thing unnecessarily? This is where private equity and venture capital firms start with a strategy. They call it clean sheeting. Clean sheeting. This is a strategy used by venture capital firms when they acquire a business or they invest in a business. They use this process called clean sheeting. It means rebuilding a team or a function from scratch on paper, a clean sheet of paper, as if you were starting over today. This helps out to strip out the legacy bloat, the unnecessary steps, the things that don't need to be there, and design a high performance operation that supports your real priorities. So, clean sheeting. Pull out a clean sheet of paper and then design the way a specific part of your process should run if it were running like a high performance operation. Design things the way you want them to be. This is what we call right to left thinking. Start with the end in mind. This is not a process of documenting the way you're currently doing it, but start with a clean sheet of paper, design a process the way you want it to run. So, step one, eliminate low value or no value work. Step two, once you've eliminated the unnecessary steps, it's time to get into load shedding. Load shedding is step two. So imagine you are running a job and you're running an excavation crew, and your job is exporting material from a job site. You have an excavator and some dump trucks, handful of dump trucks running, and you have to remove 10,000 cubic yards of material from this site. So you have an excavator, a few dump trucks, and imagine you walked onto the job site and you saw the excavator jumping out of the excavator while the dump truck drivers were standing around or sitting there, and your excavator operator is moving cones around, adjusting silt fence, talking on the phone, checking tire pressure, checking oil in the dump trucks, and that operator is the only one who can run the machine. What would you say to that operator? You would probably say, hey, get your ass in that seat and start pulling levers. Your job is to keep the trucks moving. The only way we make money is by loading trucks. You're the only one who can run this equipment. These other guys can check the tire pressure. We have a laborer. We can get somebody to move the cones around. We can get somebody else to fix the silt fence. Your job is to load trucks. Every time you stop, every time you get out of that machine, the entire operation stops. Productivity tanks, profitability stops while the meter is still running. You have equipment cost and labor cost and overhead. You would say, get your ass in that seat. That's your job. Nobody else can do your job. You need to be doing only what you can do. And that's what load shedding is about. So this is a term that comes from electrical utility companies. When electricity demand exceeds supply, utility companies shut off power to non-essential areas so the system doesn't crash. So they reduce load in non-critical areas so that they can focus on the critical demands. And this is what you need to do in a construction business, is to load shed. Example, you have an excavator, an operator who should be loading trucks, but they're doing low value tasks that somebody else could be doing. And this is about treating time like capital. Okay. And a lot of people, this is pretty obvious when you have hourly employees or hourly labor, like, yeah, it's costing me every hour. It could be $35, $45 an hour. Or if you're doing prevailing wage work, I spoke with somebody whose cost was about $100 and $110 per hour. It's pretty obvious. But the same thing applies with your overhead costs, your office staff, estimators, superintendents, selections coordinators, project engineers, project managers. You need to treat their time like capital, because it is. You're spending a lot of money. You may not see it on a time card because of their salary in most cases, but you need to treat their time like capital, especially the time of your revenue producers. So here's the process of load shedding. Identify your revenue producers. These are the people who generate revenue for the business. Then identify their revenue producing activities. What are the things they do that really drive revenue? In this example, you have an excavator operator, that's the revenue producer. Their revenue producing activity is loading trucks. So you need to do the same thing with your overhead staff, project managers, superintendents, estimators, etc. Identify the revenue producers, identify the revenue producing activities, and then load shed the non revenue producing activities that they're spending their time on to somebody else. Identify the things that they're doing that do not generate revenue, and then load shed those to a lower cost support staff member. Let's talk about numbers. Let's say you have a project manager and they should be generating $100,000 of revenue per month. Think about that. Your project manager should be generating 100K in revenue per month. Divide 100K by 160, which is the number of working hours in a month. That means they should be generating $625 in revenue per hour. This is not their cost. This is how much revenue they should be generating. So every hour they spend chasing paperwork, looking for information, making unnecessary trips. God forbid you have these people driving to pick up materials or driving the dump trailer to the landfill. They should be generating $625 in revenue. So treat their time like capital. Treat your revenue producers' time like capital and get your revenue producers focused on revenue producing activity. And this applies to you as well. If you're the business owner, you need to be focusing your time on revenue producing activity. Treat your overhead cost time like capital. Treat your time like capital. I would tell you minimum your time is worth $1,000 an hour as a construction business owner. All right. Step 1, eliminate low value or no value work. Step 2, load shed. Treat time like capital. Keep your revenue producers focused on revenue producing activity. Step 3, let me tell you about years ago, I was working for a real estate developer, and we were building these very large industrial buildings, 600 to 650,000 square feet. And there was a really impressive concrete subcontractor that we worked with. They poured nearly 2 million square feet of buildings for us. And as I watched them, they were so impressive. They had a crew that would come in to do grading, a different crew for forming, a different crew for rebar and mesh. A different crew would come in to pour the slab, then another crew to finish, and then another crew would come in and saw cut. Maybe even another crew came in and cured. And they were able to pour 40,000 square feet at a time. They would do 1 to 2 pours per week. So they could pour out a 600,000 square foot building in 3 to 4 weeks. And at all times, they might have 5 crews on site in one day working in different areas. So they created specialists. They divided up their labor and created specialists. A lot of companies, it's more of the Three Musketeers approach, where it's all for one and one for all. And you travel around as a crew and everybody is pretty good at everything. But think about a surgeon. We talked about this. If you needed surgery, you don't want your surgeon scheduling appointments, billing, insurance. They just don't do that because surgeons' time is incredibly valuable. So a surgeon doesn't prep the OR. They don't schedule appointments. They don't do billing. They focus on only that which they can do. Talent density. They focus only on that which only they can do. They do the things that only they can do. And you need to create that same level of clarity and specialization in your team. And if you're wondering where to start with your management staff, I advise you start with separating pre-construction from construction. You may be wondering, well, won't that create some tension? If I create separation, it kind of works better if we're all working on this together. Yes, it will create tension, and tension is good. Healthy tension in an organization is good. So why do I say you should start by creating separation between pre-construction and construction? A lot of people I talk to say things like, I need more superintendents or project managers in the field. I need better project managers. My guys in the field just need to be better at scheduling, better at time management. We need better subcontractors, etc. And when we dig into it, the real problem is that their PMs and lead carpenters and basically their field leaders, the real problem is their field leaders are doing what should be pre-construction work during construction. Let me say that again. When we dig into it, it's not a time management problem. It's not a skills problem. It's not a capacity problem. The problem is construction field leaders are doing what should be pre-construction activities, like chasing down selections, chasing down permits, doing buyout, negotiating pricing with subs and suppliers, doing what should be purchasing activities. The problem is field leaders are doing what should be pre-construction activities. This is why they're so bogged down. So the first thing I would recommend you do, especially if you're a custom builder, remodeler, or a commercial GC, is to create a pre-construction specialist and create that separation. Load shed the pre-construction activities off your revenue producing field leaders and create a role for pre-construction. So less duplication, less Three Musketeers, where it's all for one, one for all. Think about it. When you create specialists, they get better at their skills. They get better at a few things, like that concrete crew. The guys who were finishers, that's all they did. They were world-class finishers. The guys and gals who did the forming and the prep work, they were really good at that because that's what they did every day. So create specialists in your business. So imagine this. Think about this. How much more revenue could you push through your business in the next year if your team was dialed in and firing on all cylinders? If you eliminated low value, no value work, if your team was focused on the revenue producing activities, if they were specialists in their area, how much more revenue do you think you could push through the business in the next year? Think about this. Once your overhead cost is covered, every additional dollar of gross profit is really high margin, right? Once your overhead is covered, every additional dollar of gross profit that you generate is high margin. It's mostly, maybe all of it could be net profit. What kind of impact could that have on your bottom line? And think about this. When you're doing these things, when you've eliminated low value tasks, your team is focused on what they're really good at, it's clear what lane they're in. What would happen to morale around the office? What do you think that would do to employee retention? And what if you had a 4-hour block of time every week to focus on the business? What would you do with that time? Would you focus on sales, business development? Maybe you would spend it in a tree stand or on a boat. But if you had a 4-hour block of uninterrupted time, what would you do with that? If you had all of these things in place, you had your team dialed in, what goals have been on your board for the last couple of years that you could finally make some progress on? And then what kind of confidence would it give you knowing that your business is lean and mean and you can go grow the business confidently? What would that do for you to have the confidence to know you could go out and sell more work and the team could handle it, do it profitably? So if you're thinking, this is exactly what we need. We got to get our team dialed in. We have duplicate effort. Our team is focused on low value, no value activities. We're guilty of the Three Musketeers philosophy. We've got to create some specialists. We have no pre-construction process. Well, if that's you and you're wondering where to start, that's where we come in. Okay. There are a few foundational pieces that this all depends on. 3 things that you need if you want to do these things. If you try to do these things that I just talked about without some foundational pieces, it's probably not going to work. So there are 3 foundational pieces that this all depends on. Number 1 is you need a strategic blueprint for your business. Okay, this is the organizational design for your business for 2 years in the future. This is not an exercise in just documenting the way you're currently doing it, or wrapping your business around your current people. This is a strategic blueprint that will deliver the results you want in the future. This is the organizational design, clearly defined roles and responsibilities, and a financial model. Okay, that's number 1, the strategic blueprint. Number 2 is the playbook. You need a playbook. Every pro sports team has a playbook that explains this is how we do it. These are the plays we run. You need a playbook that describes this is how we do it so that everybody is doing things consistently. The only way to have consistent results is to have a consistent process. And the only way to do that is to have a playbook. And I recommend you start with your pre-construction playbook. Step by step, this is how we hand off a project from the office to the field. So number one, strategic blueprint. Number two, playbook. So you can answer questions one last time. So you can train people. So you can hold people accountable to a process. Number three, you need implementation, coaching, and accountability. You need somebody to help you customize these frameworks. You need somebody who's done this for over 150 other construction businesses. You need somebody who can show you this is how other people are doing it. They can give you a proven system to follow and help you customize these things. Also answer your questions as you go along, and you need accountability to get this stuff in place so you don't just bounce to the next shiny object like a lot of people do. And that's what we do inside the Systematize Your Construction Business program. We help construction business owners streamline their team, structure the business for growth, increase profits, maximize your overhead. So if you're ready to build a high performance, high margin team, go schedule a business evaluation call with my team. You can go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. Fill out a few questions, then you'll be taken to another screen to select a time for your call. This is if you qualify. So go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or you can click the link in the show notes to start that process. We're also going to look into the number one constraint in your business. We'll also see how much hidden profit there may be in your business. Wouldn't it be nice if you could grow your business or increase your profit without having to take on more projects? That's kind of a fascinating concept. Some people really like that. What if you could tap into the hidden profit that's in your business? So first step, you were like, that's what I need. I've got to do that. I can't go through another year like the last year. Schedule your business evaluation call with my team. There's a link in the show notes, or go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. And if you're thinking, I need to do this, but I'm really busy right now, I'll do it later, send yourself a text, send yourself an email, set a reminder, or pull the truck over, grab your phone. It'll take just a couple of minutes to get that call booked, but go schedule your business evaluation call with my team at constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or just click the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening. I hope you take these steps, take some action on this stuff. My name is Todd DeWalt from Construction Leading Edge. I'll see you next time.